Welcome to Bench, an informal discussion with modelers and others in the hobby industry from their bench, featuring the hosts of the Scale Model podcast, Anthony Goodman and Stuart Clark.
Okay, welcome to the Scale Model podcast, Bench to Bench, brand new inaugural episode of maybe a one-time event.
And I feel really honored now.
I have Aaron Skinner, the senior editor at Fine Scale Modelers, with me, who graciously got up early on Friday morning at 10 a.m. with me. We had coffee. We're ready to go. We're going to talk a little bit about what Aaron's been working on. Maybe I'll give you a peek of what I've been working on, and just some stuff, fun, light discussion. Try and boost all the spirits of all the modelers out there hiding out in their caves. But how are you this morning?
Not too bad. It's only 9 o'clock where I am, so but it's a work day for me too. So
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'm working from home. I start work at like 8 o'clock in the morning, so I've been up for 2 hours. It's good.
Okay, you're good. Fresh. I'm sorry. I'm the worst. I always mix up all the times.
Sure.
I thought we were in the same time zone, but that's another one. Another notch.
The Eastern time zone's like 30 miles out into the middle of Lake Michigan from here. So
okay, so it's not too bad. I've messed up other ones where I had arranged interviews in Australia, and I was like a day off.
Yeah, that's easy to do.
We sat I'm getting an email from the guy in the middle of the night, like, "Are you guys coming on soon?" It's like, "Oh, oops, I had that backwards." But nobody's perfect, right?
That's
so, right. You've come up with this Aaron from home daily kind of video updates, which is really cool, and I think a lot of people are enjoying that. Just something to checking in, and we should all be checking in with each other. And so we've seen some of the projects you're working on. I want to know a bit more behind the scenes, the nuts and bolts. What are you using for paint, and kind of where did you start out, and kind of how's your paint choices changed over the years, and where are you now?
Sure. Like everybody else, I started with enamels way back in the day. I used Humbrol enamels primarily, with some testers thrown in, because that's what was available.
The tins.
These days, yeah, the old little tinlets. Yep. And back in the days when they had the what was it, AccuColor or whatever they called them, the ones that were the matched range that they don't have anymore. Was it AccuColor? Something like that. But these days, I've used a lot of different paints, trying out different things, especially for the magazine. My go-tos, just if I know I'm going to do something that I know needs to work right the first time, I'll use my throwbacks are Model Master enamels and Tamiya acrylics, because they're almost foolproof for me. I just basically know how to spray them and go. But the types of paint that I'm really leaning on now, just because I really like the way they work, are the acrylic lacquers. The old school ones are the Mr. Color range that Gunzi Sangyo had, or GSI Krios had.
Yes.
But now, in the last couple of years, it's just been an explosion in that type of paint. We've got MRP, we've got Ataka has a range, AK has the Real Color range. And now Tamiya's got a range of acrylic lacquers coming out.
Yeah.
There's the range out of Australia, SMSFP, something like that. And I've told a couple of my reviewers, if I never use another kind of paint in my life, it's going to be acrylic lacquers. I love the way they lay down. They spray beautifully. They just go down thin. They don't obscure detail. They cover well. And they're almost unlike the acrylics that seem to, every acrylic is slightly different than the other one. You need a different thinner, you need a different ratios. These are a lot more like using enamels, where as long as you get them thinned right, they just spray beautifully, and you can use, basically the thinners are interchangeable. I've used Mr. Thinner or Mr. Leveling Thinner.
Yeah, that's what I use.
Thinner, a lot for the different ranges. I've also used Real Colors Thinner. I've used Tamiya Lacquer Thinner. All of those seem to work across those ranges. So I really like that aspect, that I don't necessarily need to get the proprietary thinner. I really like the way they work. Yeah. And I've used them on a lot of my projects lately, and they've gone almost without trouble. So
That's awesome.
That's my new call out. So
Interesting.
acrylic lacquers.
Have you tried the Tamiya lacquer? I guess it's an acrylic lacquer, correct? Like it's not
Yes. Yeah.
true lacquer. Have you tried those ones yet?
A little bit. I haven't airbrushed them a lot. We only just got a few of them into the office recently, so I haven't had a lot of chance to play with them.
Yeah.
They're advertising them to be basically what was available in their spray cans was acrylic lacquer. This is putting those into bottles so you can airbrush them a little easier. And the range is larger than the spray can range. They're pulling a lot of the colors that were in the acrylic range, and to me, it does have an enamel range if you can find them. If you can,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they're hard to find, particularly in the United States. I don't know about elsewhere in the world, but they are these little glass bottles, more like the old Model Master square bottles.
Okay. Yeah, I think I've seen that design.
Yeah. So that's where I'm at these days. So what do you use?
I gotta say, I'm in love with Mr. Color, the lacquer version. So I know in Canada here we just got the new or relaunched aqueous line has come out, but actually I can show you my paint rack. Whoop. Okay. There it is. You can't see what's on there, but I see a lot of what
like Tamiya and GSI Krios bottles there. So
that's right. So I have a lot of the Tamiya paints. I have like a row for XF and then a row for X, and then we had a shop in London where I am that finally started picking up all the GSI Creo stuff, and I started buying up the Mr. Color lacquers, which I love. I was sort of interested in using them because all the Bondi kits and Hasegawa science fiction kits often had the call-outs for that, so I kind of wanted to use it. But for years, what you could get after Testers and Model Master, it was Tamiya. So I was using that because it was available, and it worked really well. Right, it was great. It did. Like you said, it was something you could definitely easily get into. And then I happen to have a big batch of I think I got it in a box somewhere of the old aqueous line from Gunzy, and I got a whole like a boatload of paint, and it was like must have been 90s, out of a hobby shop closing, and I got it in a trade. I had bottles upon bottles of Model Master and some of the aqueous stuff, and then I just noticed that some of it's still good, but when I was dipping into that, a lot of them, they weren't working very well. So I just got frustrated, and I took all the Model Masters. I was at a show vending, and I said, just whatever you want from the box, take it away. And somebody took them all. And then by that point, I was buying Tamiya up. And then when our little shop got in the Gunzy, I started buying that up, and I'm just trying to build a library of that stuff. But I'd love to try more paints, but I find it, once you're committed, it's hard to jump around. But I did grab some of the Tamiya lacquers when they came out, a couple of metallic ones, and I haven't played too much, but I'm hoping to monkey around with those a little bit, see how they turn. I've heard great things about how they work, but I gotta say, the Mr. Colors that I have, they do go down really well. They cover well. It's such a nice smooth finish. I've had the best success with that.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit more about your shop. How do you are you able to swivel around and give us a peek, or?
I can sort of do that. This is a large computer here.
Yeah. Okay. A proper computer.
Yeah, because it's actually my work computer for working from home.
Oh, okay.
So
a makeshift shop.
Yeah. Well, and I got to tell you, my workshop is sort of. See, there's my rack of supplies, etc. There.
Yes.
You can see past the light. I've got some Mr. Color paints back there that I picked up for a project I was working on. Haven't finished yet, of course, because we all have those, right? And there's bookshelves over here with all my reference material.
Yep.
See those.
I have those handy.
And some artwork on the wall back there. Got to have your place, right? The big thing about my workshop is it's an open room. It's an old attic space
Yeah.
that is the way we access our bedroom. So there's no way to close it off. So I can't. And we have two delightful cats. And if you know anything about cats, they love to play with small objects.
Oh
so
yeah,
I
I
can't
have
leave.
two.
I can't leave anything out that's going to be, fragile. So I have to pack everything up every time. So
Is this your normal space, like, or do you have like a basement? Oh, this is where you normally work. Okay.
Yeah. When we moved to the house, I thought about using the basement, but it's a unfinished, very cold basement, and I didn't relish working down there. Plus, there's like open flames down there for the heater and so forth, and I didn't really. There's no good way to vent, so I thought I'd just be better up here. And it's more communal, and my wife likes to see me occasionally, so it's helpful for me to be in this place where she can see that. So it's sort of impermanent, but I've got an old piece of bench on a couple of file cabinets, and I use the file cabinets for storage and stuff like that. So.
There you go. Well, and I know that you have, from our prior conversations, that you have like a workshop at the office, right, where you can kind of get your work done and even dabble in your own stuff on occasion.
Yeah, I like that one because it has a large spray booth. If you've seen any of the videos we've shot in the workshop, you'll see that back there. It's a big one, and it's an industrial blower out of the roof of the building. So you can really lay down some paint and not worry about it too much. So
there you go.
That's
a really big. I know that this conversation comes up a lot. People are concerned about spraying. They haven't gotten as far as looking up the spray booth. They're wondering about masks, and that's kind of one of those concerns, right? Is that you got to be safe with spraying. Any it doesn't matter if it's water based or what. They're all, if you're gonna what's the word when you turn it into an aerosol, right? And then you can breathe it in. But that's a big challenge for a lot of people. I got one of these amazing. Let's see if I can keep rotating here. You can sort of see my spray booth. That was a Pace Industries. The cheapest one he had, because I'd already spent all my money when I went to a con, and then I discovered him at the last hour of the last day, and thought,
it's always the way.
Yeah. So I'd like to upgrade. He had this guy, Pace Industries. He makes these beautiful like sheet metal booths, and they have really big blowers on them, and some of them have lights in them, and they're just beautiful. And he had this one. It's the same blower fan, but just a cardboard body with a filter. But oh my goodness, wow, that was the best investment probably ever made, because it really does get the smell out. And I have it just tied into my window. Do you have any, when you're painting up there, are you just opening the window? Do you have a little booth, or like one of those portable booths?
No, I don't have a booth here. I used to, but it was a big solid metal thing on a wooden table that all came as one element. And there's not a good way to vent out here. There is a window.
But in the winter.
Speaking of cats, there's a cat. And in the winter here, as I'm sure it is up where you are, it can be a little chilly to have a window open. In the summer, I have a box fan in that window, and it pulls all the stuff out. I should point it out. This time of year, I try to minimize how much spraying I do at home, and I try to do it with mostly acrylics, so they're a little less obnoxious.
Yeah, but they don't smell nearly as bad.
There was a time a few years ago, I did an airliner book for the company, and I sprayed a lot of Future at that time, or Pledge Floor Glosses, we're calling it now. And I actually set the smoke alarm off. I pulled back that was when I had the booth set up, but it wasn't pulling hard enough, and I pulled back, and I was aware that I could see the air around me, and then the smoke alarm went off. So you got to be aware of some of those things when you're doing that. My rule of thumb is if I can smell it, I'm breathing it in. So I try to be a little cognizant of that.
Absolutely. Now that's
do as I say, not as I do. So.
It, like I said, this is a huge challenge for a lot of people. I was I didn't have my kids yet, but certainly at the time I bought the fan, I knew I had my wife, of course, and I was thinking of her a little bit. And we used to live in an apartment building when I really started up, and I used to do the airbrushing all on the balcony. So that was really brutal, like you were saying. I didn't do anything in the wintertime. And that obviously really was a problem for me. So now you have to kind of think about, do you give a lot of thought to planning out projects so you're building a lot in the winter and that you're lining things up to get painted, primed and painted kind of as the weather breaks, or?
A little bit. If I can, when we're in the office, I plan to do things, a lot of airbrushing out there in the winter in particular, because I can, I have access to the big booth. But with us in the stay-at-home, rules we have now, I can get to the office, but I'm not doing a lot of work up there. It's mostly just like modeling work. It's video and photo work that we have to do up there in the studios. But so I kind of plan around that a little bit. I've done some painting here. Obviously, I painted the R35 here. So I do what I need to here. I just I kind of plan it around, and I try to minimize the impact on my wife in particular, because you just try to be sensitive. So.
Of course, as modelers are.
I try not to pull out a big old spray can of Krylon and lay down some heavy base coats or anything.
Oh yeah. I took some of that stuff. I was just doing creating a base for my current project, and I use all those Krylon paints. I took them outside because it felt like spring, and now it's snowing again here. But got lucky. I got it all done up. So I gotta ask a little follow-up question. So are you able to? Because obviously you were doing a bunch of video series for Fine Scale Modeler. Are you able to get up there and kind of like back to the office and work on your own and kind of get some stuff done?
As a rule, yes, we try to minimize how many people are in the building at any one time. But, just for particularly photo and video, we have established spaces in the building for that. So, and I could do the photography at home, but it's just not going to look as good as we can do with our staff photographer, Bill Zubak. So I tend to, we plan it. I try to be in the office about once a week at the moment, check mail and do photo shoots and video shoots as necessary. It is what it is. But they've got, for the most part, we're all working from home the majority of the time. So
yeah, that's good. I mean, that distance right now and hand washing, right, are the two real keys to not spreading the infection. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about the projects that you've dug out, because you every day you got a new thing coming out, and I feel it.
It's a bad habit. I think I said it in the latest video. There's that thing where you're working on something and you've been working on it for a while, and you get to a point and you're like, just not feeling it the same way. So that's when the stash of, which is too large, if that's something you can say, draws your attention, and it's like, I've really been wanting to build this. I should pull this out, or that thing that you've started a while ago and you left and you want to go back to it. So that's always a danger. Plus, when you can't do anything, I've got to put clear coats on the R35, the R35 I've been working on, and that New God Phoenix. And that means airbrushing, and I didn't want to do that last night for a variety of reasons. So that's when I pulled something I'd been working on out and went, I'm going to play with this for a bit. Plus, if I'm reading copy, editing some stories, sometimes it's nice just to have something I can sand on while I'm sitting here.
Yeah, the easier phase.
Do a little multitasking. So I'm kind of coming to the end on the R35 and the New God Phoenix are both review projects for the magazine. So I've kind of been trying to get those out of my way because I want to actually work on some stuff for me. So
yeah, absolutely.
Also.
Are those kits then, when you are doing them review for the magazine, are you pretty much stick to out of box? You're not going too crazy on them?
No, it is for reviews. It's always straight out of the box. We don't want any aftermarket parts. You can add an antenna or things like that if they're an antenna wire or that sort of thing. But you want to try and we don't want you to add any photo etch. We don't want you to add any resin. Out of the box. Tell people how it goes together. Try and use the kit decals unless there's something very wrong with the kit decals. You can sub something out for that reason. But as a rule, it should be generally out of the box. So the R35 it's a Tamiya kit, so it is right out of the box. What more do you need to add? Same with the New God Phoenix.
Yeah, and the God Phoenix, is that Bondi or no?
No, it's Academy.
Oh, it's Academy. Okay, so is that
Yeah,
one
yeah.
falling together nicely as well?
Yeah, it is. It's complicated by the fact that it has operating features. Uh,
Ah,
so bits of it open up, and there's a bunch of the little vehicles that G-Force or the Gotchaman or the Science Team or whichever name they're using
yeah.
for it at the time use. So those all go in there, and there's some figures to go with it. The figures, there's no stated scale on the kit. I'm not
Really?
sure what scale.
Huh.
No, I'm not sure what scale it's actually
It's weird.
supposed to be. And it's been so long since I watched the show. I was a big fan of G-Force when I was growing up,
Oh, wow.
and I haven't seen it in a long time. I did notice that at least one season is on Prime right now, so I might be tempted to
Oh,
delve
yeah.
into that. So it's where I've been able to watch. I see you have a Robotech poster behind you
I
there.
do. Yeah, I love that's kind of that. I have Robotech and Akira, and then
Right.
I'd like to get some aviation art at some point when I redo my mid-70s den.
Hey, I like the paneling, man. It's great.
Yeah,
Um,
it's fun. It's
but
cozy.
yeah, I'd watched a little of the Robotech when I was a kid, but I had always wanted to watch the actual Japanese Macross
Yes.
versions of it, and
Yep.
Prime has that, so I've been watching that now, and it
It's
has
good.
actually forced me to buy one of the Hasegawa Valkyrie.
Oh man, they're
It,
great. I that
that's
oh
what I
whew,
hear.
love it. I just got Stuart. Stuart, I don't know. I'm gonna claim responsibility for this. He bought a or he already had a Valkyrie, but he pulled it out and started working on it. And well, I guess I can show you this. I got it handy. This is what I'm doing right now. I have this. This is the 72nd Quaidloon Rao, which is like the bad guy power suit
Right.
from Macross.
Yep.
So I'm just
Yep. See that?
this is, I just was working
That's
on it's yeah 72nd.
70-second scale. Okay.
It's
It's big.
monstrous. It's huge. Yeah, it's got to be
Yeah.
about. I'll show you the guts because I spent a lot of time just figuring out the wiring and the lights.
Okay.
Whoops, there you go.
I'm assuming the lights are not part of the kit originally.
No, they're not. And actually, this is supposed to be a spec build for Moscato hobby models, but I mean, he included clear resin, these clear resin, like a mono eye and like a sensor, and I have to light all this stuff, and it's a very impressive kit, and I've really been enjoying it. I'm working on another one for him, and then I had a couple, um, like yourself. I'm gonna ask you about this in a second, but I have all these things that I was building. I was building a Bondi 1-144 Stark Jagan kit on the couch kind of thing, and
Okay.
then just putting it together. It was easy to talk and watch TV and didn't need a lot of stuff, right? And then I have this. It's the Malaysian. It's the Academy from the '90s, Malaysian M113 variant
Okay.
in the UN Pro 4 colors, and I gotta say it's 99%, and it's been there for about a year and a half because I've never painted figures, and of
Right.
course I want figures, right? So I'm looking at it every day.
Sure. I get it. Trust me.
Yeah. So
Uh,
tell me about you mentioned you started pulling out half started projects and what's your library of half started projects look like?
oh, deeper than I want it to be.
Deeper.
There's a lot of things that
It's good,
The
right?
the oldest thing I think I had on one of the videos is that Punisher kit. That's that old Horizon
Yes.
vinyl
Oh wow.
Punisher
Early
that I
90s?
started. Yeah, I think it's copyright 92. I bought it in 94. When I moved back to the States, I picked it up at a hobby store actually a comic store in Tulsa,
Okay.
Oklahoma, and
Wow.
I put it together while I was because I was on the job hunt at the time. So in between writing, because that was in the days before the internet, so I had to
Uh-huh.
type all this stuff up and send all these resumes out. So in between doing all that, I was working on that guy, and I started to paint the face with oils. And I have never mastered working with oils on
Ah.
figures. I'm a big fan of acrylics on figures now, so I can
Okay.
do that. The oils just I could never get it to work. So for a long time, I'd lost his gun. He has an Uzi that he's holding, and that went
Okay.
missing in between two or three different moves. And then it popped up one day, and I thought, oh,
Wow.
great, I can finish that. So
It's like the Mauler's
I've been
miracle.
working on, Yeah. I think it just got put in another box because it was separated, and we opened the box up, and hey, there it is. So I'm happy about that. But
a sign.
Yeah, so I need to finish it. It's one of my favorite characters, so I've been wanting to finish it for a long time, and
classic.
now's my chance. Yeah.
I read all those books too. They're great. There you go. So, geez, I gotta. Do you have I mean, could you? I don't want to pry, but could you put a number on how many half-started kits you have?
Oh,
is it in the double digits?
It's probably between 10 and 20.
Oh my goodness, that's nothing.
I know that. There's an old. The nice thing about working for the magazine is it forces me to finish things. So I have to. When you have a deadline, you have to start, do it, and finish it. So it has forced that issue a little bit. The problem is all the personal projects are the ones that tend to languish because they get pushed aside by work projects.
I'm sure all your half-starter ones are the ones that are most closest to your interest, right?
Right. Yeah. It's a lot of the old AMT, Ertl, Star Wars, NPC Star Wars.
Oh wow. Okay. Now those kits, I mean, you've done some of the newer Bondi and fine scale it's not fine scale, fine molds. Have you tried some of those kits? I've heard that those old kits, I mean, obviously they were the only option at the time before probably the 90s or later 2000s.
Yeah, the late 90s is I think when or late 90s, early 2000s when Fine Mold started their line. And then of course Bandai came in, and their stuff's only been 5-6 years now.
It's fairly recent, right? Probably around Rogue One, or maybe the movie before that, right?
They were prior to Force Awakens because they had some stuff from they did the ATST, the 48 scale ATST was before that.
Right.
Some of the original series stuff, original trilogy stuff is prior to Force Awakens, but they were really timed to hit that new wave of interest driven by Force Awakens and so forth.
And those are, I'm just hearing great things about those kits. So are you planning to kind of forge ahead with the older releases?
Yes. It depends on as with all of those old, right. Well, and as with all of those older kits, it was what we had. It was the only thing we had. It's same with the old AMT Ertl Star Trek stuff.
Yes.
And they were variable in quality. And accuracy. The old X-wing has shape issues, but the TIE Advanced, the Darth Vader TIE Fighter, is pretty good. It's all hit and miss. It's sort of what you want, and it again. Some things just Bandai still has not come up with new versions of. Yeah. There's also the old Revell. I remember Revell's done several Star Wars things over the years too. Revell Germany. So can't forget those things being part of it. And a lot of those are pre-finished and snapped together, but they're not bad.
Yeah, so as long as the shape is there.
Yeah, I have a few of those in my stash too.
Oh, nice.
My Star Wars stash is deep and plentiful.
Wow. There you go. That's awesome. You know what? I think sometimes the older kits, especially if it's a kit or something from the early experiences in your life, it's still fun to go back to them, regardless of newer versions, or I definitely have kits that, they're not the greatest compared to what's today, but just because they were that thing I coveted when I was teenaged, or the first modeling experience, it's fun to dig them back out and just play with them and work on those plans that you had from way back when. That's very cool.
Right.
Yeah. So how about out of what you've got on the go now, actively, favorite one of the bunch?
Ooh, man, that's putting me on the spot here.
Making you work.
I'm really enjoying the Academy New God Phoenix just because it's something completely different, and I never really expected to see something like that, particularly from Academy.
Yes.
It's fun. It's it's something I don't have to worry too much about. Is it accurate? Is it not? It's what it is. But as always, Tamiya, hits the sweet spot in terms of just sheer buildability, and that R35 is colorful. It's different to look at. It's colorful camouflage, and it's a Tamiya kit, so it just kind of falls together.
Man, I gotta admit, I've never built a full Tamiya kit yet.
Okay.
I've played with like figure sets and that really great the US modern equipment set. I've drawn from that a bunch of times, but like I can't wait to taste the magic a little bit. I've been dealing with all these other projects.
If you're just looking for something you want to build and paint something, or you want to try something different, you can't beat them because they're so well engineered these days. They fall together. Their Spitfire was like magic. It just, and you're ready to go with paint and all that kind of stuff.
That's amazing.
They're really tough to beat
I can't wait.
Building a project.
Well, most of the projects I've had have been these sort of I don't know, like real barn burners where they just take forever, and like it's so intense just to get them together, and there's like you get into it and you're like, oh, I can't turn back now, but I've got to solve this in like crisis modeling. So that the Aliens APC was like that, where you're like nothing makes any sense. Even the Academy M113 actually was pretty good, but even assembling the hull, like the actual putting the shells together, was like this major operation with nothing. You're holding it together and you're like, okay, one side, the front hull fits together nice, but then the back end's not working. So it was kind of one of those things where you're trying to glue things in stages. And so I just can't wait I do have plans for a Canadian M113 from the Bosnia UN mission. And the base kit is the Desert Wagon. And I'm having already built an M113 basically from Academy. I'm really pumped about building Tamiyas and then seeing how that goes together in comparison.
They're very similar, but Tamiya and Academy M113s are very similar. I did the AFV Club M113 a couple of years ago, and that's a beautiful piece of work, but it is super fiddly because that one has the finest detail out of all of the M113 kits I've built. Just really fine edges, and which just complicates the issue even more. I mean, you wouldn't think it would be that hard. It's a box on tracks. It's not it's not like a lot of smooth shapes. It's all hard edges, so you think it's easy to get them to match up, but not always. So.
Did the AFE Club? That was the full interior. Is that correct?
Yes.
Did you do all that as well? Engine compartment?
Yeah. There's no engine in that kit.
No. Okay.
Unlike the Tamiya and Academy ones that come with sort of the basic engine in them.
Yeah.
As I recall, this one doesn't, but it has full driver's compartment, full rear. It was the one I used. We did it for the Vietnam special, and I did it as the ACAV, and I did a whole bunch of ammo boxes on the inside, personal equipment and all that, because that's basically like a house on wheels for the guys. So.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. Yeah, very cool. I had the old, the original, I think 74 Tamiya ACAV. I think that was the first one, and it comes with the tank rider. Yeah. Right. Or early on anyway, if it wasn't the first one, but it looks actually pretty good too. Just kind of looking over the parts.
Oh no, they're perfectly buildable. It's the you can see the difference though in what AFV Club was able to do in terms of just like the road wheels have a really fine. They're thinner than the other ones, and they're just that scale appearance to them. But it does make it much more fragile when you're trying to get everything together.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, those are the challenges, right? So that's interesting. So you were saying the God Phoenix is kind of the most interesting one right now of the current crop of stuff. What's the biggest challenge of those current builds, or any difficult stretches?
The Tamiya kit didn't present any particular challenges. My biggest debate with myself on that one was whether to hand paint the camouflage after I put the base coat on, or because it's got this 4-color French early war camouflage on it.
Is it the blue stripes and like yellow? I don't know what you call that. It's not lozenge, but
it's just sort of a disruptive pattern with the black outlines around all the colors.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It's yellow. Is it yellow, blue, green, and red? No.
It's like 2 shades of green, a tan, a stone blue, and then Yeah, and then or a dark brown. That's right, a red brown, and then like I said, the black outlines. I used one of speaking of weird choices. I used one of the Gunzi. I think they're Gunzi, the Gundam markers.
Oh,
To do the
really?
black outlines. Yeah,
Yeah.
I figured I've painted those before, but I figured this would be quicker and it was
Easier.
going to guarantee the width was going to be right about the way it was all the way through. So
Yeah.
that was a new thing, and it actually worked pretty well. I was impressed by how well it worked. So.
Nice. Yeah, right on. Now for the pattern on the R35, are you referencing the box art, or did you have some other material to kind of look back onto?
No, I basically went with the Tamiya instructions. They have a 5-view drawing in the kit box.
Perfect.
I've got all this right here, so actually, I guess it is a 5-view. You guys can see that.
Oh, okay, there you go. It's all laid out. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's really
So,
colorful.
And I sort of adapted the colors, the recommended colors, a little bit just to match more closely what I had seen in references. But I wasn't going for strict accuracy. It's an armor kit, and all that stuff gets altered by weathering anyway. So
Yeah.
it's all going to get toned down a little bit with washes and dry brushing. So.
Oh, right on. Yeah. Well, it does sound like it's quite involved, right? I mean, just like any other camouflage pattern. So that's cool. What are you do you have in your mind what you're going to be using to do the weathering and the what's the term I'm looking for? Modulating and all that stuff?
Mostly for this one, I'm keeping the weathering a little minimized because I want, since it's a review model, I want people to be able to see the model, not my weathering techniques. So, it's fairly clean. I used the Tamiya panel line accent color stuff to wash the panel lines and the engine grills and stuff. And I'll probably use a airbrush dust coat on the running gear and maybe a little AK or MIG pastel work, or pigment work, just to give a little dust coat on the lower breeches.
Excellent.
My biggest challenge now is the figure. So it's a beautifully sculpted figure.
Okay.
I've got him.
Is it driver or
commander?
commander?
He's sitting up in that.
Okay.
You see that?
Yeah.
In the back hatch.
Okay.
And
yeah. Awesome.
as you said, figures a challenge at the best of times. It's not my natural place. I'm getting better with them, particularly learning from our figure guy. Joe Hudson's been really instrumental in my learning the basics of blending acrylics and stuff like that. So I'm getting more comfortable doing it. I still it's that I've got to get myself kind of over the edge to start work on painting figures. So.
Yeah. I think I need to build. I'd like to maybe just slap together 10 that I can maybe not so invested in, and then just do some practicing. I think that's kind of my next step. I started. I have mine over here. I don't know if I can reach them. But these. I ended up finding the. Hold them up here. These are the Korean. Oops. Korean tank crew kit from Academy from the 90s that you always see floating around at model show meets, and you don't know what to do with, right? But they're actually so this guy's holding a rifle, and he's gonna be sitting on, that's a Mang cooler.
Okay.
So, and I ended up just beer caps. A guy showed that me along, super glue 'em tool beer caps, and it's a good little
right.
And a jeweler's vise, right, is another tool. And then the heads are all mounted on separately on. I think I just use a piece of wire to hang on to them. But yeah, I was trying to figure out the flesh tones and blending the oils. That's kind of where I got stuck. But I need to do a bit more.
Yeah. Oils. The oil thing, I am always fascinated when I go to, we have the big figure show in Chicago every fall, the MMSI show.
Yeah.
And that's the one show that really makes me just envious of everybody's abilities, because the figure painting there is just phenomenal. And as much practice as I do, I just can't ever get to that level. So
there's definitely some secrets and some tricks that I'd like to be let in on. Definitely, yeah. Well, it's a work in progress, right? But I love having figures because for every subject, because I always find that's the thing that tells you how small or large something is. Like, yes, you
Right.
can read the scale and say this is in 1/35 or whatever, but it's sort of separated or it's disconnected. And when you see a figure, and you're like, wow, that is a huge robot, or that's a tiny tank. And
Right.
I'd like to get more into that as well. But I think we're just about wrapping up here, and I really want to thank you for getting up. Did I get you up early? I think I made you wake up early.
No. I was working today, so I was up at 6:15 or something. So I'm
Fair
good.
enough. Well, thank you for giving us a little peek into your workshop and the behind the scenes of all your projects, and of course, we're looking forward to seeing those finished results. And are they going to be in? They're going to be in the magazine, upcoming issues, right?
Yep.
As you get them completed, and the
The,
magazine's still
the,
coming out.
yeah, that's our plan. I mean, it's we all understand that we can keep doing we're at home, so we can keep building. So we want to keep making sure we're giving everybody the information that they need to build their models and know what's going on in the world of modeling. So.
Yeah, so keep listeners, keep your eyes out for the future editions. You'll see all of Aaron's finished products, and thanks a lot. And we hope you are staying safe and all that good stuff.
Same to you, Anthony. Good to talk to you.
Thanks a lot, Aaron.
Sure.